All right, September TBR. It's getting real. It's getting real, folks.
Sun and Mood Reads.
Hi everyone, I'm Sun. This is Sun and Mood Reads. Today I am sharing with you my TBR list for the month of September. I am super excited about this, but at the same time, I am quite nervous because never in my reading life have I ever set myself a certain amount of books to read by a certain amount of time. For me, unless the task is work or family related, I find it very hard to follow through if there is some kind of expectation put on me or some kind of time limit. The rebellious kid comes out in me and I'm like, no, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to read and when to read it by. Yeah, as you can guess, I was an amazing student at school. So I was a little bit apprehensive about doing this TBR video, but two factors got me over the line and made me decide to follow through with it. The first factor is I chose the books very carefully. Like I went all Marie Kondo about it. I actually held the books to my chest or, my Kindle and looked at the cover. And I asked the question, does the thought of reading this book excite me and does it give me so much joy? If it was an astounding yes, then I put it on the list. If it was more of a, I think I should read this because I've been meaning to read it for a long time, or I should read it because everyone else is reading it. If there was any inkling of obligation, then I took it off the list. So the prospect of reading these very carefully picked books is super exciting. The second reason is I have a very positive incentive now that I didn't have previously. And that incentive is you, the BookTube community out there. The thought of being able to read these books and at the end of the month share my thoughts and hopefully connect and discuss with others out there is the light at the end of the tunnel. It feels like a reward. So although I hardly have time to feed my kids and go to the toilet these days, I am going to prioritize and put my TBR out there and do my very best to read them. Don't worry, I promise I will still feed my kids. The toilet thing I can't guarantee for sure. So many books, so little time. So without further ado, here are my books for September. Okay, so by the look of my books, it seems that this month is a month of mystery, a month of a little bit of magic, and also a month of manners, as in MANORS. I love a good story where the house, the mansion, the estate, the property, dwelling itself feels like a character. And I'm always up for a bit of magic, but I'm in the mood for a bit more of a soft magic, I guess, like a wistful kind of magic, something that's sweeping and majestic. And of course, I'm always up for a mystery, especially like a cozy murder. That is how I usually like to finish off a bit of a readathon. But having said that, the first book that I'm going to share with you does not fit in any of those boxes I just mentioned. I just wanted to squeeze this one in because I'm halfway through it and my heart is about to burst with love and joy and aching pain. And I know that I am going to want to gush and talk about this book at the end of this month. And that book is A Man Called Uva by Frederik Backman. I'm quite late to the party with this one, and I have been actually reading this for the last 6 months. I have started and stopped and started and stopped. Because I have to admit, it is quite triggering. I am at the stage in my life where my parents are elderly and the roles are becoming reversed in my relationship with them because they are becoming the vulnerable ones. So I'm thinking about that a lot reading this book, and added on to that, this whole COVID phase, how this virus affects the elderly in such a severe way. And not just the virus, the sickness and the death, but the collateral effect of the isolation that the elderly have to suffer during this period. Oh my God, all those things is just in my head while I'm reading this. So I have been a little bit on and off with this book. But what keeps me coming back to the book is the writing itself. It is just so beautiful and charming, and just the beautiful way that the onion that is Uva, the layers are just peeled I couldn't help becoming invested in the story. So I am reading on and I will get to the end. I'm sure I'll just bawl my eyes out like I have been since the beginning of this book. But I know that life and love will be affirmed at the end of this reading. And I cannot wait to talk about it. Now let's move on to the 2 books that I have chosen because I am in the mood for magic. The first book is a relatively new book. I am so excited to start this one. I've heard so many great things. I keep hearing it's great. It's great. I recently was listening to a podcast, What Should I Read Next, with Anne Bogel, and she had picked it as one of her summer reads. And I think she mentioned it was a little bit Harry Potter-esque. And anytime I hear that, no matter how subjective that opinion is, my ears perk up. So there seems to be a lot of gush and excitement about this book. Oh my God, I just realized I've been blabbering on and I haven't even mentioned the title and the author of this book. Good one, son. It is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Or is it Cerulean? I don't know. I haven't read any T.J. Klune books. But listening to this recommendation on this podcast and then reading the blurb on Goodreads, actually, I'll read it to you now. Linus Baker leads a quiet, solitary life. At 40, he lives in a tiny house with a devious cat and his old records. As a caseworker at the department in charge of magical youth, he spends his days overseeing the well-being of children in government-sanctioned orphanages. As soon as I read that paragraph, I was like, I want to go to there. So yeah, I am pumped about reading this one. The second book in my magical mood box is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patchett Rothfuss. It is called, of course, Wise Man's Fear. First book, The Name of the Wind. Outstanding. The Name of the Wind was one of the first books that I read that was the gateway for me to reading fantasy. After reading that book, it just made me realize, wow, fantasy could be like this? Patchett Rothfuss's writing is just so majestic, poetic. I absolutely adore his tone. So I am really excited to get back into that world. Man, I am going to lap up that delicious Rothfuss way of words. Cannot wait. Now moving on to 2 books where the manor, the estate, the house, the dwelling is almost like a character itself. Now I've chosen 2 books, but I will most probably choose one over the other because I just do not have time to read both books. So I would love to get your opinion as to which one I should choose. So the first book is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Oh my God, guys, look, I am holding a physical book. The first time I've held a physical book in these videos. Wow. Now you may be wondering, or you probably have not even noticed or cared, I haven't really displayed or shown any physical books in my videos. That's because I don't actually have a lot of physical books. I work at the library, so most of the books that I read are from the library, or I will read books on my Kindle. I freaking love the Kindle because I have mentioned it before, but I like to book surf a lot. Like I change my mind all the time depending on my mood. And so this way, I just feel like I've got like a little TV that I just keep changing the channel and no one notices. So yeah, I love my Kindle. Anyway, that's why I hardly ever have a physical book to show, but I do have one to show now. This book is one that I've wanted to read for a very, very long time. I keep hearing Rebecca loosely kind of related, connected to Jane Eyre. And some of you may know that Jane Eyre is one of my favorite books of all time. And when I heard the recommendation, oh, if you love Jane Eyre, you'll love Rebecca, that instantly gets me a little bit anxious because I now have very, very high expectations for this book. But the other week I did read the first couple of pages and I was instantly drawn in. The description of the Mandalay house, it was just absolutely haunting and stunning. So I think this month may be the month where I finally read Rebecca. Unless you out there give me a really good reason to choose the second book, which is The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. I honestly don't know a lot about this book. All I know is that it's very popular. And just going from the title, I am assuming that it is based in a house, a Dutch house. I read the first couple of pages of this one as well. So I know roughly that it's about two siblings that I imagine are growing up in this house. And that's really all I needed to know because I love a good family saga. So yes, I am very intrigued about this book, and I have yet to read an Anne Patchett book. So this might be a go as well. So I'm not sure. I may read both, but I most probably will choose one over the other. Would love to know what you think. So they are my two books about Manors. Now, moving on to my mystery read. I love a good mystery, particularly a cozy kind of mystery. So I am going to go back to my old and faithful Louise Penny for this mystery read. And this book is the third book of the Chief Inspector Gamache series. Gamache or it's French Canadian, so. The third book is called The Cruelest Month. Oh my God, I love this series. And I am so looking forward to going back to this place because this story, the setting is one place where I really just go and travel completely in my mind. And that is not a bad thing at the moment because we can't travel or go anywhere. The series is set in a small Canadian village town called Three Pines. Or is it Two Pines? Hang on, let me check. Yep, Three Pines. And the main protagonist is Chief Inspector Armand Gamache, and he is part of a provincial police force in Quebec. Now, I would say that this is a character-driven mystery series. The characters in this Three Pines village, I love them so much. They are like a distant family that I go back to during Christmas time. That's the feeling I have when I go back to Three Pines. These characters are so quirky, so flawed, different ages, different backgrounds, and they all have a story as to how they got to live in Three Pines. I love them so much to the point that I'm just so scared every time I read a new book because I just don't want any of them to get murdered. If you are looking for a fantastic mystery series with brilliant, strong, wonderful characters and a stunning setting, you have to check out the Chief Inspector Gamache series by Louise Penny. And now, just to round it all off, because I am such a bloody rebel, I love breaking rules, I'm just going to add one more book that has nothing to do with the magic, mystery, manor, mood boxes, and it is an Aussie read. It is Nine Perfect Strangers, Liane Moriarty. Look, another physical book. I know it's Liane Moriarty, so I know I'm going to absolutely love it. It's going to be a great, easy read, plot-driven, interesting enough characters, probably a twist of some sort. And I love a good story that's set in like a health retreat, which this one is, because you just know that there's going to be some kind of instability one way or another. Excited! So there we have it. That is my September TBR list. Okay, I'm going to try to remember this. I haven't written this down anywhere, and I don't have the physical books except for two. So A Man Called Uva, The House in the Cerulean Sea, Wise Man's Fear, Rebecca, The Dutch House, The Cruelest Month, Louise Penny, and Nine Perfect Strangers. Okay, how many is that? That's seven. 7 books. 7 books. Oh my God. I'm not going to read 7 books. Why did I do that? At most, I am probably going to read about 3 or 4 out of the 7 books. So be prepared that some of these books will be transferred onto October. Anyway, let me know what you think of my TBR list for September. And also, if you have some recommendations on some fantastic books, particularly in the murder mystery genre with some really interesting characters and some really cool, wistful, magical reads, like not necessarily hard magic, epic fantasy reads. More like, soft magic and spells and wistfulness. A little bit of humor is good too. Yeah, if you have any recommendations of that genre, please let me know. All right, well, I'm off to I'm off to read some books. I better get to it. Thank you so much for dropping in. You know, I'm going to say it. This is my fourth video. I'm growing in a bit of self-esteem and confidence, so I'm going to say it. Please subscribe if you like what you saw and I didn't piss you off too much. Please subscribe. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.
Sun and moon.